Hello and welcome. All right, today we're going to dive into one of the most creative and honestly most useful parts of German grammar, the Konjunktiv II. I know it sounds a little intimidating, but trust me, by the end of this, you'll see it's basically a superpower for expressing yourself.
Of course you have. We all do, right? I wish I had more time. If only I were on a beach right now. Well, that whole world of wishes, of hypotheticals, of what-ifs, that is exactly what the Konjunktiv II is for. It's the grammar of imagination.
What's so cool is that German has this very specific tool to draw a super clear line between what is real and what could be. So think of it like a tale of two worlds. And today, we're going to get the key to unlock that second world, the world of imagination.
Okay, so in grammar, they use this word mood. Don't let it throw you off. It just changes the vibe or the intention of a verb. For everyday facts and statements, we use the indicative. That's the real world. But the second we want to talk about wishes, fantasies, or possibilities, we jump into the Konjunktiv II. That's the what-if world.
Look at how powerful this is. Ich habe Zeit. I have time. Simple fact. But watch this. We change one little word to ich hätte Zeit and boom! We've just opened a portal. This isn't a fact anymore. It's a wish or a condition, right? I would have time if I didn't have all this work. That tiny change makes all the difference.
All right, so now that we get why it exists, let's get our hands dirty and figure out how to build it. And you'll be happy to hear that making the Konjunktiv II in the present tense is actually surprisingly easy.
Here it is. This is the master key for most verbs. Seriously. The formula is just würde plus the infinitive form of the verb. This is your go-to, your bread and butter for creating pretty much any hypothetical situation you can think of.
So, this word würde comes from the verb werden, which means to become, and it conjugates just like you'd expect. Ich würde, du würdest, würde, and so on. Pretty simple, right? No curveballs there?
Now let's see this in a full sentence. So, the reality is, if I earn enough money, I'll buy a new phone. But the what-if version, that becomes, if I would earn enough money, I would buy a new phone. See how we just plugged in würde with the infinitives, verdienen and kaufen? It perfectly separates what's real from what's just a possibility.
Now, while that würde rule is fantastic, some verbs are just special. They're so common and so important that they get the VIP treatment. They have their own shorter, special forms, and you really want to use them to sound more natural. Let's start with the two biggest of all, to be and to have.
So instead of saying ich würde sein, which is a little clunky, we just say ich wäre. Instead of ich würde haben, it's ich hätte. And the pattern here is super simple. You just take the simple past tense form, so war or hatte, and you add an umlaut. War becomes wäre, hatte becomes hätte. Easy. And this is exactly why we learn these special forms. I mean, sure, ich würde reich sein is grammatically okay, but a native speaker is almost always going to say ich wäre gern reich. It just sounds better, it flows. Using wäre and hätte is one of those little things that'll make your German sound way more fluent. The VIP list doesn't stop there. It continues with another really important group of verbs, the modal verbs. You know these guys. They're all about ability, permission, and obligation, like können, müssen, and dürfen. And yep, they get their own special forms too.
And the pattern here is the exact same one we just saw. Take the simple past tense form and add an umlaut. So könnten becomes könnten. Mussten becomes müssten. But, and this is a big but, you gotta watch out for sollen and wollen. They are the exceptions to the rule. They don't get an umlaut. For them, the Konjunktiv II form is exactly the same as their simple past tense form.
Okay, so we've covered the what-if of right now. But what about the what-if of yesterday? You know, for all those regrets or fantasies about things that already happened. For that, we need the past tense of the Konjunktiv II.
And here's some really good news. If you already know how to form the perfect tense in German, you are 90% of the way there. Seriously, the formula is almost identical. You just take those Konjunktiv II forms we just learned, wären or hätten, and add the past participle, the particip zwei. Check out how this works. The real past is the weather was nice. The unreal past, the wish, is if the weather would have been nice. See? We just replaced war with wäre and added the particle gewesen. Same thing for the second one. I found the book becomes if I would have found the book, It's a direct swap from habe hätte to hätte. All right, take a deep breath. We are about to enter what I like to call the final boss level of Konjunktiv II, the past tense with modal verbs. It looks a little weird at first, I'm not going to lie, but I promise it follows a very consistent, if kind of quirky, pattern. Just like our source material warns us, here you must pay close attention. This structure is a bit unusual, for sure, but getting the hang of it just comes down to spotting the unique word order. Okay, here's the formula. You take hätten plus the infinitive of the main verb plus the infinitive of the modal verb. This thing at the end is called the double infinitive, and it's how we get from he had to work to the hypothetical he would have had to work, hätte arbeiten müssen. Honestly, my best advice, don't overthink the logic at first. Just memorize and copy the pattern. It's always the same. So we've gone through the rules, the exceptions, even the boss level. Now for the fun part. Let's see how Konjunktiv II actually makes you sound more polite, more natural, and way more expressive in your everyday German. This is where the grammar just comes to life. First up, polite requests. Using könnten Sie instead of können Sie creates this little hypothetical space, which makes your request sound softer, less demanding. Second, giving advice. Du solltest is so much gentler than a command. It means you should, but is a helpful suggestion, not an order. Third, expressing wishes. This is the heart and soul of Konjunktiv II. Ich wäre lieber im Urlaub is the classic daydream. And finally, those unreal conditions. Wenn ich Zeit hätte lets you build a whole imaginary world that isn't true right now. You will use this stuff every single day. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Konjunktiv II isn't just some dusty, complex rule you have to memorize. It's a powerful tool. It is literally the key that lets you move beyond just stating boring facts and into this much richer world of politeness, advice, daydreams, and endless possibilities.
And that brings us to the end, so I'll leave you with a question that uses the very grammar we've just been exploring. Wenn du etwas ändern könntest, was wäre es? If you could change one thing, what would it be? The moment you start to answer that, you're already thinking in Konjunktiv II. Thanks for joining me.